Today we're going to dig into a really fundamental question about your money. Is your access to it something that's granted to you by an institution, or is it something you operate directly? The difference between these two ways of thinking is changing absolutely everything. So let's break down what it all means.
Just think about it for a second. When you need to make a big transfer, or get to your funds on a weekend, or just move capital fast, what's actually standing in your way? Is it a technology problem, or is it really a set of rules and business hours set by somebody else? This question, right here, it gets to the very heart of a massive shift happening in finance.
For pretty much all of modern history, the answer has been crystal clear. In the world of traditional banking, having access to your own money is, ultimately, a privilege. It's granted to you by the institution that holds it. It all works on their terms, on their schedule, and by their rules.
Okay, so let's start inside this world that we all know so well. This world of granted access. This is the system most of us grew up with, and its rules are just deeply wired into how we think about our financial lives.
We've all been there, right? Trying to wire money after 5 p.m., waiting days for a deposit to finally clear, or getting your account flagged because of some unusual transaction. Every single one of these is a perfect example of institutional gatekeeping. It's where the bank's own procedures, not your own intentions, are what dictate the speed and flow of your money. Bottom line, you're playing by their rules, on their time.
But there's a new model emerging, and it's one that challenges this entire structure. This new model is all about shifting from being a passive depositor in someone else's system to becoming an active operator of your own capital. So let's explore what that actually looks like.
The core idea here is something called self-banking. And listen, it's not just about using a different app on your phone. It's about fundamentally replacing that passive dependence on a bank with your own active, self-directed financial infrastructure. You go from being a customer to being, well, you might call it a capital architect.
All right, so let's put these two worlds head-to-head, starting with the most obvious difference, access. How do you actually get to your funds?
In a traditional system, your access is defined by physical walls and procedural hurdles, branch hours, employee approvals, internal processes you never see. But in a decentralized system, access is architectural. It simply depends on you having control of your digital wallet and a connection to the network. And that network? It operates continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Okay, next up, let's talk about the rules. Because in any financial system, there are going to be constraints. But where do those constraints actually come from? Who or what gets to define them?
So a bank's rules are based on these internal policies and discretionary decisions that you just can't see. In decentralized finance, the rules are literally written in open source code, and they're executed by smart contracts. Now, this doesn't mean there are no rules. It just means the rules are visible, they're predictable, and they apply to everyone equally, instead of being based on some institution's shifting priorities or, their whims. This brings us to a really critical topic. What happens when a system is put under stress? This is where the differences in design become incredibly important, but it's also where a whole new set of responsibilities starts to pop up.
This is the classic nightmare scenario, right? The bank run. When confidence in a single institution starts to waver, everyone's access to their funds is suddenly thrown into question. The stability of that gatekeeper becomes the single point of failure for everything.
In the traditional world, your access is completely tied to the health of one specific institution and the regulators that oversee it. In the decentralized world, your access is tied way more directly to your possession of your own wallet, the ongoing function of the network, and the liquidity available inside a specific protocol. The risk moves away from a single company and toward your own operational security and the health of the open system itself.
But we have to be really clear here. This is not some simple story where one system is perfect and the other is just flawed. This shift from granted to operated access involves a very, very real trade-off.
See, when you become the operator, you trade one set of risks for a completely different set. Instead of worrying about a bank failing, you now have to manage things like smart contract risk. That's the chance of a bug in the code that runs the whole system. There's liquidation risk, where automated systems could sell your collateral if prices move against you. And you are 100% responsible for your own wallet security. Ultimate control really does mean ultimate responsibility.
So let's bring all this together. When you strip away all the technology and the jargon, what is the truly fundamental shift that we are witnessing here?
It really just comes down to one word: control. This evolution from traditional finance to decentralized finance, it's not just a tech upgrade. It's a transfer of control from the institution to the individual.
And that brings us right back to the core distinction. In the centralized world, your access is granted. It is a permission, a privilege given to you by a gatekeeper. But in the decentralized world, your access is operated. It's an action that you take as the owner of your own financial infrastructure.
This really leaves us with a whole new way of thinking, doesn't it? The question for all of us now is, do we prefer being a customer in a system where access is granted, or are we ready to become operators in a world where we can build and control it ourselves? The choice is no longer just a theoretical one.